The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Financial Survival Network is presented to you by Regal Assets. Buy and sell physical gold and silver through your existing retirement plan, 100% tax-free with Regal Assets. If you want to include physical gold or silver in your existing IRA or old 401k, request your free investment kit, which was recently featured in the Forbes and Smart Money Wall Street Journal magazines. Call toll-free 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620, or visit regalassets.com. Live from Spokane, Washington at the Silver Summit, I've got Pasha Roberts with me now. He just released an animated thriller. We're trying to figure out if it's life imitating art or art imitating life. It's called The Silver Circle, dealing with inflation, monetary mayhem, and governmental evil. And Pasha, welcome back to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com.
Oh, thanks, Kerry, for having me back, and I'm glad you had a chance to see some of the movie last night. It was a lot of fun to show it to everybody. First time.
Hey, I love the story. I felt like the emotional connections between the characters were really phenomenal, and your painting the evil villain as the head of the Fed was great. But this is a little bit autobiographical for you, this movie, isn't it?
It definitely carries some of my basically myself have moved from a sort of heavily financial and economic background and transformed that into, rather than going into a hedge fund and making derivatives and selling that on Wall Street, moved into actually storytelling about economics and about economic disaster. So I went to MIT for financial engineering. A lot of my classmates are probably on Wall Street right now or in Connecticut in some hedge fund. But I ended up really feeling like the mathematical models were really incomplete and were not reflective of human action and how humans actually behave in an economy, and just was not confident enough about doing it.
So in other words, if I could summarize it, we're talking about how wealth really gets created in an economy, as opposed to the way people see it now, where if you can come up with a faster, better algorithm, that's the key to wealth creation and wealth beyond your wildest imagination.
Oh yeah. No, I've had plenty of offers as far as programming high frequency trading or something like that, and that would be intellectually stimulating. And I actually find the material and the algorithmic challenge really interesting. But what's really more interesting to me is like how a whole economy works and how it doesn't work. And one thing you never get exposed to. I mean, I went to MIT, which is heavily Keynesian. But you just don't get exposed to how money works and how an economy is really founded. You never talk about silver and gold are like risky commodities there.
Yeah, barbarous relics.
Yeah.
So Pasha, how long ago did you start this project?
We started Silver Circle basically about a week after Lehman crashed.
2008, that was.
End of 2008. And when I saw that, because I was involved in the financial markets, and we had a studio doing financial work, and realized this could be the mother of all stories. This could be a really interesting full feature movie. And furthermore, the financial community is not going to be buying financial videos from us for a long time after all this. So we just got cracking on that, and when you start looking at the crash or the mini crash in 2008, it very quickly leads to fiat money and the Federal Reserve and central banking.
And you raise a great point, which is that 99% of the population of the world really don't have a clue what happened in 2008, 2009, why it happened, and why it's going to happen again, do they?
No, it's not necessarily. People at best start getting into individual fraud or Madoff or something, or they get into credit default swaps or something like that. It's not about that. It's actually about cheap money flooding the system, leading to all kinds of malinvestment and sort of crazy derivatives. And not all derivatives are bad. I mean, they're originally invented for farmers for futures contracts. And that a futures contract for selling your corn while it's still in the ground is not a bad thing.
Yeah, and mutual funds are derivatives. You know, so derivatives itself is neither a positive or a negative. It's the way that the derivatives have become the tail that totally wags the dog. But getting back to your story here, so you got it in your mind that the story needed to be told about the real root causes of the collapse and the precursor to the eventual collapse. So what did you do then?
We basically just got cracking putting the story together. Actually found a screenwriter who lives in LA. He's a real LA screenwriter, but he lived through the Argentinian hyperinflation, which is amazing. And he read all kinds of Milton Friedman work. And so he had all kinds of great insight as far as how money is traded day to day. So he studied a lot about Argentina, a lot about Zimbabwe, about how people actually function in a crashing economy, because they don't wither up and die. I mean, they keep functioning, they adapt in very strange ways. And so we tried to show a lot of that and how governments respond. And in our movie, as well as in real life, when an economy collapses, when a currency collapses, the government has to crack down heavily to keep people in that currency, or it'll finish exploding. And that's what you see in Silver Circle.
We see here. And they could do it by currency controls, or what the U.S. has done, which is going to around the world and making all the banks not want to do business with American depositors. None of the world's financial institutions want to touch an American customer, and that's where we're at now. So you started working on the story, and then you had to figure out how to make this thing work. You had to raise capital, and you had to push this forward. And how hard was that?
So we already were in animation studios, so we had a lot of the pipeline down, a lot of the tools down, the same tools that Pixar uses. But it's a lot of work. It's a very large, it's been 3 years of unpaid work for me and paying other people to work.
I know that feeling. We do the same thing at financialsurvivalnetwork.com.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I have classmates that are making $5 million a year. Mm-hmm. That's a shortcoming, I suppose, but we hope to make it back in the movie theater, and, it's an investment. But it's a very rewarding job. It's really interesting to actually engage in financial storytelling about the truth, as opposed to it's more of a shift from trading to economics.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to make the short-term deal that gets consummated in under a second or inside a quarter. I really want to look at America for the long term.
So we could call this a labor of love, couldn't we?
We could, but yes. And so there's definitely a lot of passion. People get into that with us a lot, and are much more passionate than many independent films, because there's an idea inside of it. But it's a solid story. It's not just, my love. There's actually real substance here. You saw what was there, but we had people crying and cheering and everything else throughout the whole movie. And that's really the passion of storytelling itself. It's interesting.
Absolutely. So now you've got to get this thing distributed. People want to find out about the movie, where to see it. What should they do?
Well, you can learn all about us at silvercirclemovie.com, but we will be releasing it out to movie theaters in January, February next year. It'll be a limited release, at least throughout the U.S., and if we get more support for our distribution phase, then we'll be able to expand that out to more theaters. And then that leads to DVD, Blu-ray, cable, international, all of that. But we're just learning as quickly as you can as far as how movie distribution works, especially as a small independent. Even with a couple $1 million in the movie, we're considered very small.
Sure.
I've had people read our script and said it was a $30-40 million movie, just because there's helicopters and explosions and car chases, and it's
sure. Big. That's great. Well, hey, we wish you the best of luck. And do you have any other follow-up? Not sequels, because it's hard to come with a sequel with that ending, but future plans?
We're definitely already working on a sequel. I have a story down for it, and we're all I can say about it right now is we're cutting forward to 2028, and a post-crash economy, and it's kind of a little bit of a crash between Mad Max and Atlas Shrugged, but it's a fun and interesting world that we're starting to play with. The same rebels kind of move out into free societies interacting with each other.
Well, it sounds like you're onto a whole new genre of movie here, and it's going to be fun to watch and see these characters develop. Maybe there's a TV series in your future. Let's hope, and we wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you, Kerry, and as always, I appreciate everybody's listening.
Sure, and you want to find out more about the silvercirclemovie.com. or go to Financial Survival Network. You can replay this interview as well as others that we've done together in the past.